I'm Melanie Swayze, a global real estate advisor with Gibson Sotheby's based in Metro Boston. I closely advise homebuyers and sellers of all stages of life, guiding them to intelligent, winning decisions.
I'm Derek Lumpkins, a real estate investor with a background in community organizing. I also enhance equity and inclusion initiatives at companies and organizations, and I guide leaders through executive coaching.
When we get together, we dive into the intersections of culture, class, mindset, and Black freedom.
Welcome to the Black Landing Forum,
a podcast about Black wealth, power, and land.
Hey, Melanie.
Greetings, Derek.
What's going on?
I'm happy to be alive.
First, that's a good thing. That's always a good thing. But I never hear you say it's like, it's amazing, I'm jubilant, just all the things.
That's inherent. That statement is an honest conveying of the joy, the wellspring of vitality in my heart and the center of my being. Truly. So whatever is going on, I'm in the center of all of it. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive.
Okay.
To me, it's not a diminishment or even a common denominator. It just is true. And that is all the things you just described. I think you used the word jubilant.
Jubilant, exuberant, whatever the nth you would add, sure.
I'm happy to be alive.
Okay.
Happy
I feel like
alive.
that is just a baseline, and then things just add up on top of that.
I'm grateful to have this baseline. To be frank.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I gotta say, yes, I'm feeling the same way. I'm feeling good. I was never a big fan of Mondays, but it's another Monday. I'm happy to be able to enjoy a new day, especially here with you and here with our upcoming guests.
Yes.
But I'm also I realized the other day that I'm sort of missing summertime a little bit. I texted a friend the other day. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, oh, I kind of miss summer. I miss being warm. He's like, I don't miss any of that. And I know in about 6 months' time, I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm like, man, I miss the cooler weather because it'll be getting hot again too. So, typical New Englander, I'm never satisfied with the weather, but at least it changes enough that it's not such a big deal. But summer also got me thinking about summer also got me thinking about your visit.
Yeah.
Or like our time together in Barcelona and how much fun that was.
Yeah. Yeah. You were a remarkable guide. We did lots of exploration. We met friends of yours, which was really just such a treat to be introduced to Barcelona life on the ground, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
It was. It's like, it's like the queers, the Black folks, it's not necessarily what you see on display when you think of a tourist setup. And I didn't have a tourist experience. I had a kind of neighborhood experience, and that was really nice.
That is true. That's true. And actually, we somehow stumbled into an invitation to the African Society's networking session. And I'm actually going to go, by the time this airs, I will have gone, but I'm going to go to one of their bigger events that's coming up in less than a week.
Lovely.
It's going to be, and actually I recruit, I don't know if that's the right word, but I got a friend who's from Cameroon to come along with me.
Lovely.
So he's excited about that too. So I'm looking forward to checking that out and seeing how that goes.
See? Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But speaking of meeting Black people in Barcelona, you got to meet someone who I've known for a little while and that I'm getting to know better the more times I come to Barcelona. And he's today's guest.
A Black West Indian, no less, by way of the UK, no less. Yeah. So there's a lot of, kindred feelings for me in meeting this guest. Are we going to just go ahead and bring him on?
If you're ready, sure.
Yeah, this is Nigel Lovell. He's a Black British of Barbadian origin who relocated to Barcelona, Spain in 1998 after 34 years of living in his hometown of Birmingham in the UK. Nigel excels in providing incoming relocation services for expats seeking to live their best lives in Spain, and he's often described as Mr. Fixer. Additionally, he has very much built a community of starting various groups in his time in Barcelona, from public speaking groups to classical music appreciation and social groups, and even curry clubs. So, during the pandemic, he found the urge to study again and qualify as a travel partner and event organizer technician. So I know that Derek and other people who Derek knows have benefited from Nigel's talents, and we're delighted to bring him on today to share with us about his experiences.
Good afternoon, good morning. Here I am.
Good to see you, Nigel.
Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thanks for joining us. We know how busy you are, Mr. Fixer, so thanks for making time in your schedule to be here with us.
Pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you here as part of this podcast, because you actually touch upon a couple of things that we've talked about in the past. So we had one episode about mostly Black Americans, but also Black Canadians and Black Brits who move out of their home countries. We were calling it Blaxit. And what sort of drives people to leave, especially Black people, to leave their home countries and move to other places, and what that means in terms of feeling settled, but also not being part of a wave of gentrification and displacement. But then also we've had multiple conversations in different formats around building community. So especially in times like these, at least in the US, where communities are literally being, in some cases, torn apart, people are being taken away in the dark of the night and, sort of kidnapped away. We're trying
or in the middle of day in broad daylight.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. So, the fact that you are Mr. Fixer and you're helping people to not just move, but build community, I think is also something important, because we talk about it not so much in an abstract sense, but sort of like get to know your neighbors, or build a mutual aid society or whatever. But you're actually like creating clubs and instructing people on how to find the schools or how to find the stores or how to do this. So it'd be interesting to hear your story. So maybe you could start us off with talking about your own Blaxit. Like, what is it that drove you, if anything drove you, or maybe something attracted you? Why did you leave?
Well, the impulse for me to come to Barcelona actually was initially for love. I came for a relationship, which I was in Birmingham in 98. That finished very soon after getting here. And therefore, it was for a relationship with a guy from Barcelona. And I decided after 5 months, when the relationship finished, that do I stay? Do I go? I wasn't sure what to do. I had always wanted to live outside of the UK, actually. I think the driving force for that, probably weather. I do realize that I have an affinity to sunlight. I need sunlight. I don't like, the grey skies that, you sort of have to deal with in the UK. It brings I think it's called a sad disease, and I think I'm quite sensitive to that. So just needing more light was always an attraction for me, and therefore the opportunity to actually move here, I jumped at it. When that finished, I thought, what do I do? Go back? Do I stay? I decided, well, I'll stay and see if I can make it work. I can always go back later. And the more I stayed, the more I started to get into life in Barcelona and, sort of Spanish, Catalan culture. It seemed to agree with me, and I seemed to make it work for myself. And, soon then there was just no choice of not going back. It was staying here. This was the only choice that I wanted to make for myself. I was working at that time for a transport company. I was able to get a good job at that time in Barcelona. So that helped me to, put down roots, because sometimes when you come here and you don't actually have a good job or a good income, it can be difficult, but that was not my case. I still had contact with the family who sort of adopted me pretty much. And now I am an integral part of that family 27 years later. And that also made my experience very different. It made it a lot easier to integrate and to understand and to learn the language.
So would you say that your connection, because it almost sounds like it took the ending of that relationship for your connection to Spain, or for your connection to Barcelona to grow stronger?
I would probably say yes, because it was then sink or swim. I had to really make it work for myself. It was difficult. I'm not going to lie, it was really difficult at that time. And especially at that time, there weren't as many expats as they are now. And so really to integrate and to, meet other people, really, that's probably why I started the cruise, because I couldn't find anything just to tap into. So I couldn't find it. I had to make it for myself. And I remember going through a slight depression at the time. And the doctor said to me, well, just do what you would do if you were at home. And I would already been involved in, like a kind of Toastmasters type club, not exactly that, but something similar. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to do that here, but I can do something similar. There are people that want to learn English, and part of the fact that I was, one of the fewer English living here at that time was an attraction for people to meet me and be able to practice English with me. So I started a speaking club in English. And that really was when it started to take off for me, to get to know people and to, make my own, community and society of people that made me feel good socially here. Because if not, it can be a very lonely experience. And many people that move here, they do struggle, but neither do they put the effort into making those contacts as I did. But for me, that was a natural thing.
You also make it sound easy. You're like, oh yeah, I started this and I did that, and I'm part of this family. You make it sound very easy. I mean, there must have...
Because that's about my character. My character's like that, I guess. For me, it's not difficult. I don't realize that it's not... I do realize that it's not easy for everyone to do that. But in my case, I don't see it as hard work. It's just something that I naturally do. I naturally gravitate to meeting people and, bringing people together and socializing with people. Part of my character. I guess that's one of the positive things that I get from my birth mother. Read between the lines if you want there. But
or
that's
you
one thing that
you can take us between the lines. Why should we read? You should take us there. Where are you trying to take us to?
She has a wonderful character. She, as far as I can remember, very social, very public relations, unlike my father, who was much more serious. And so whenever I see that part of me coming out, where I naturally just gravitate to people, can start a conversation in the street with, a stranger, and people do get surprised by that. I keep thinking that comes from my mother, because my memory of how she is or how she was, she's now 85 years old with Alzheimer's, and so therefore a different person. But even so, there's still elements of that character in her that I see myself, and it comes out. I'm very comfortable in company. I'm also very comfortable in silence, and I'm also very comfortable being alone as well. I can be comfortable in both worlds. I think that's a good quality to have.
Yeah.
But for me, especially, for my business, and it's all about contacts and, making contacts and knowing the right person to call for whatever. It's a good quality to have. And it, has brought to the table a lot of useful contacts that have helped me personally and professionally.
Was this a drive that you had in your childhood as well?
I'm one of 9 children. So I guess, being in a situation where you're living with lots of siblings, and you've got to negotiate, your existence, in this family network, it must also have something to do with that. I have a sister, my youngest sister that I'm closest to, and she has the same quality, but she actually describes herself as introvert. And I've never really thought about that before. And I can see that she could be, even though she doesn't display it. She still displays this part of me, this happy, effervescent, character. I describe myself as extrovert, actually. I'm happy to describe myself as that. And now, actually, since a long time ago, I actually like to play with it. I can go to a group and decide, right, what do I want to do today? Do I want to be, this happy speaking to everybody, or do I sit here, not speak to people, and see who comes to me? And that's actually a nice position to be in sometimes too.
Nigel, That's a beautiful skill. That's. I mean, I think people would call that being an ambivert, where you can choose. You can choose.
Yes.
You're like ambidextrous with
Yes.
right and left hand dominance, and
Yes.
so it's really lovely that you can navigate the world that way. I was chuckling because I'm one of 8 in an immigrant household, also, and I loved how you so diplomatically put navigating the
Yes.
network of people that you're living with. And people think of me as extrovert, but I actually experience myself. I feel I'm an introvert. I prefer quiet and silence and or one-to-one exchange rather than a kind of group setting. But it's really good to be able to combine the skills of being in a big household of people who just landed in a place because you're an immigrant twice over.
I also think
proud of immigrants, and so to navigate the world in that way, and at home with people who are adapting to their environment, and then also be out in that environment and figure out the skills to navigate that world.
I was one of 9 children, but I was the only one that went to a grammar school. So I've got this 9 children, big family setup. But then at the age of 11, I had to go to a different school, which is 1 hour away from home, whereas all my brothers went to the same school locally. And so that's probably where I started my independent streak, sort of breaking away from the big, I was treated very differently. I had more homework, so therefore I was treated somewhat special in a way. Oh, Nigel's got more homework, because he went to grammar school, so leave him alone and let him study, and you all have to do the housework and you all have to do that. It gave me a lot of problems, within my siblings, for a long while actually, because I didn't want that favoritism, but it just is what it was. And so therefore, I think this about being happy in the crowd, but also being a loner and happy with that is probably where it comes from, I guess, at the age of 11.
I can't even imagine that. So you all are saying you're one of 8 and one of 9. I'm one of 1. So the concept of having 7 or 8 other people plus the adults around all of the time, to me, sounds not quite overwhelming, but almost unbearable.
Well, it's actually even more complicated than that, because I was the first one to be born in the UK. So I'm the middle child, number 5. The 4 older than me were born in Barbados. Then my parents went to England. And so when they had me, I was the only child for a while. Until, then my other brothers and sisters came along. And then older, when I was like 6, I think my sister and brother came. And then when I was 10 or 11, I then met my twin brothers older than me for the first time, who came from Barbados to join the family. So it's like being part of a big family, but at the same time, in some very formative years, being the first and being the only one as well, And my mother in a new country because she just arrived and, sort of latched on to me because I was, the only baby or child that she had with her at the time. So I'm sure there's something to do with that affects the way that I have developed.
Yeah,
but I see it positive. I think it's positive.
Yeah, it sounds like you were swimming in change all the time, and you would have been there in the 60s and 70s when the UK was going through a lot of social change during that time. Is that right?
I was born in 62, so yes, my formative years, when I was in the 70s, lots of change, especially for my parents. So
that was pre-Thatcher into Thatcher.
Exactly. I remember Thatcher, yes.
Yeah. A lot of West Indians moving in and a lot of backlash.
Say again?
A lot of West Indians moving into the UK and backlash.
Yes. Being brought there, I remember my parents being told that, they were campaigns for them to come to UK. There was, opportunities for them. And this is why my dad decided to move, although the intention was only going to be for 5 years, make some money and go back. And so, he made, the change to move to England to get some money to be able to go back and, have a better life, I guess, or send money back. But once they got to the UK, they couldn't get back. There weren't the opportunities, or it wasn't the land of gold, that they were made to believe. Eventually they got back, but 40 years later.
Wow.
When they then went back to retire. My dad's dead now, but my mom after he died, then moved back to the UK and is still currently in the UK, having gone back when she was in her 60s, to try and retire and live the life that they supposedly wanted to do after 85 years.
So it sounds like, based upon what you described in terms of how you moved to Spain, you didn't face the same kind of backlash here that your parents faced when they moved to the UK. Is that correct?
No, I would say no. Although I would say that, for example, people often say to me, do you ever feel that you're the subject of racism? For many, many, many years, while I came to Spain, I didn't. But I don't know whether that was because I was just blind to it. I just didn't, I wasn't aware of it. It probably is true, actually, because lately, in the last few years, I am more conscious that it does exist, and I am the victim of that. I don't know whether it's something to do with maybe they see you as more successful, and there is a slightly energy of jealousy or envy, in the culture here, and therefore they don't. I'm not talking about black and white. I'm talking about even amongst themselves. Somebody that's doing well, somebody's that is making money, and somebody's that going up the ladder. They don't encourage them and say, good for you. They tend to sometimes oh my God, well, why can you do it and I can't? And they sort of try and look for reasons why they want to bring you down. And that's probably what's happened to me, being a successful, with my business and, as that's gotten better over the years, maybe I've become more of the victim of people's envy and jealousy here. But yes, racism does exist, and I'm more aware of it now. But I wasn't in the early years, I have to say. I didn't feel that when I first came here.
So it's not a matter of visibility, because it sounds like as you're becoming more successful, you're more visible. But I would imagine that when you first moved to Spain, you were visible in a different way.
Maybe I was just fighting so hard to make it work. I don't know. You've got to learn the language, you've got to learn the customs, and maybe I was just so absorbed, or consumed with, my being here that you don't realize it, I guess.
Yeah, you're just trying to let yourself fit in and stay. I think the context too of you arriving in a place like Barcelona at the time that you did, I believe it was the 92 Olympics, Derek, that opened up Barcelona really to the world stage and the global map. And so it was still new for people to be moving in. And my guess, I don't know, but my guess is that people probably were kind of neutral or welcoming of incomers and more economic vibrance that was coming from that. But there's always going to be, at some point in some way, a backlash where people feel, wait a minute, I start to see a pattern of you're coming here and getting this, and how come I'm not? But I think, so maybe that sort of backlash culture hadn't really emerged yet. It was still a place that was opening up, and you were really humbly submitting yourself to learning Spanish, learning Catalan culture. And I bet that people probably also appreciated that.
Yes. And now, in the last, I don't know, say 10 years, you see a lot more, say, African immigrants, people, illegal immigration, let's call it, that is arriving here. And so therefore people's attitudes, I guess, are changing or have changed. There's a lot more than they used to be. But people that, who, they're not creating any particular problem, but nevertheless, they are struggling, they don't have work. Sometimes they don't even have where to live. They're perhaps, sharing, apartments, or some of them, ocupas. And that's a different immigration that's changing people's attitudes towards, Black people. And I guess I must be also affected with that. I remember when I first came here, people used to think I was Cuban, actually. It was like, oh, you must be Cuban, you must be Cuban, you must be Cuban. But they don't say that now. They never say that now. And the visibility of Black people, there's a lot more visibility. Obviously, there's visibility of those that, like I said, illegal immigration, and also visibility more Black expats, successful, and also more tourists as well. I'm seeing a lot more Black tourists, which is great. I actually love to see that here now.
It's interesting because as many times as I've been to Barcelona, I see the graffiti or I see the stickers that say, tourists go home, refugees welcome. And I'm like, well, and some part of the back of my head, I'm like, well, how do you know who is who? How do you know who's a tourist? How do you know who's a refugee? In some cases, it's very obvious. But then there's always that third group that always gets forgotten about. It's the people who actually immigrate.
Yeah.
And so, and Black people fall into all three categories, whether they're the tourists, they're the refugees, or they're the immigrants. And I just kind of wonder, at what point does the continuum break for people who are anti one end and pro the other end? And also what happens to those folks in the middle? So, I mean, you're one of those folks in the middle. Like, you are an immigrant. You're not a tourist, and you're also not a refugee. And I have a friend who says to me, okay, yes, even though you're Black, he says this to me, even though you're Black, we can see that you exist in a different level of class because of how you dress, because of where you shop, because of all the things that you do. And so for us, we're not going to respond to your race, we're going to respond to your class. And I'm like, but at some point that has to break. Because if I'm walking down some random street, the first thing people are going to see is not necessarily going to be my clothes. They're going to see the color of my skin, especially if it's summertime and it's wearing like a tank top and a pair of shorts. You're going to see the brown from top to bottom. And like at some point, there's got to be a point at which people say, oh, it's another Black person, not, oh, this is a Black Westerner. I mean, maybe it depends if I'm wearing a cap or sunglasses or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like there's somewhere that breaks. Or maybe that's just the American in me imposing my vision of how things work onto the society here.
I can go and I can ask for information in a shop, because I want to find something out, and I can get a very different first reaction, because I sometimes have been with my partner who is local and Catalan. So I will walk out, he will walk in, and he will get a completely different reaction to me. Do you know? It has to be racism. What else could it be? I've asked in perfect Spanish. Or maybe it's the fact that I didn't say it in Catalan. Maybe that could be also something to do with it. I don't know, because he's Catalan. And there is, the Catalan independence movement, and, they need to speak Catalan, which I understand it perfectly. I don't speak it well. I'm going to try and make a move now to try and speak it better now. But quite often he's shocked at the difference in reactions when we ask the simple same question. Do you know what I mean?
What's an example of that?
I can remember once we went into a shop to do with orthopedic. I can't remember what I needed. I needed something maybe for somebody. I can't remember the detail now, because sometimes I'm so shocked at the reaction that I tend to forget the bad stuff, because it just shocks me too much. But, it was like, no. What are you doing? Why are you even coming in here? Do you know what I mean? Like, almost like you're coming into, I wouldn't say rob the place, but do you know what I mean? They don't even want to let you through the door. Yeah. It's shocking and it's saddening. 2025. That
I feel like that is more likely to happen now than 30 years ago.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Or it's happening more. It has to happen more, because I don't remember that when I first came here, and I would have been all over the place making my life here and trying to get into it here, with my job. I was a salesman, visiting companies, living my daily life. I don't remember those experiences that acute to what I've seen more recently. But it's not all bad news. Huh? I mean, it's a good place to be, and these are just maybe sporadic examples that I'm giving. Neither do I want to be put on a pedestal, which is another thing which sometimes people do. Yeah, but you're different. Yes, you're Black and you're red, but you're different. No, I'm me. And I just wanted to be treated as me and integrate, like anybody else. I don't want to be on a pedestal, but neither do I want to be the subject of racism. Let's say.
Right. Of course. So how do you build community through that? So like you said, it's not all the time that happens, but you still have to do some level of navigation. So
I'm always drawn to building things with my interest. It has to be something that I'm interested in, because I need to have fun too, and I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So I usually start with a personal interest of my own, and as I mentioned, or was mentioned in my biography, one of the best groups that I did here, even though it was a bit surprising, because again, it's not the obvious thing that maybe you would think a Black person would be interested in, was classical music. I don't know why I love classical music, but I do. None of my brothers and sisters, my mother and dad, nobody, but I do, I don't know where it comes from. I don't care where it comes from. It is what it is. And so therefore I decided that I wanted to enjoy this, wanted to go to concerts. I wanted to find out where I could, enjoy the kind of music that, I love. And why not do that through, a community, meeting other people? And that's exactly what I did. And it ran for 12 years. And it was one of the best groups I ever did. I was enjoying myself. I was meeting people. And then outside of, going to concerts, you're meeting, you're socializing, you're talking, maybe going out for a meal occasionally or a drink before the concert. And to this day, I still know good friends that I have made because I took that initiative to start a group like, the Fat Lady Sings, it was called. It was on a platform. Equally, with my curry club. Again, I love curry, I'm from Birmingham. And, Birmingham, it's got a big tradition of a lot of Indian and Pakistani immigration and fantastic food. That's what we love. That's what we know. I love that here. And at that time, you wouldn't have thought that there would be a lot of Indian or Pakistani restaurants or to be able to discover that kind of food. So, I started a curry club, and that forced me to go out and research and find it. And it takes you to different places in the city. It takes you to, places that perhaps you wouldn't normally go to. And I would go to the restaurant, say, we'd like to bring a group of people here to socialize and to have a good evening. But equally, we're going to, rate the food, and we're going to publicize you, give us some publicity. And I've even had cases where they've said, right, grandmother, you're coming in to cook this group this evening, We had some of the best curries ever on the curry night because they wanted to get a good rating, And now there's a lot more of that cuisine here. And it wasn't just, it was that Thai, the subject was curry. Or let's say the excuse was curry. It was bringing these people together. And if they liked it, they were coming from a background where they've either had it before, they've traveled there or whatever. And it was a very interesting evening, a mix of people, very international, very diverse. And that's the kind of environment that I've always, enjoyed living in and having close to me. And so by creating something like that, it brought that community together. And again, you're not going to make absolutely friends with everybody, but there's 3, 4, 5 that will stay with you, and they have been now friends for a long time.
Nice.
So that's how I built my community, because of my own personal interest.
As more immigration is coming to Spain, or as it's been happening over the 30 or so years you've been there, are you seeing the formation of a Black community or multiple Black communities, depending upon where they're from? And how do you see yourself interacting with them or being part of them?
I'm not seeing them, obviously, as in a community. If I would say I remember certain communities that you could see in the UK, I'm not seeing that here personally. Black communities getting together and staying together. I actually think perhaps that could be a project, because they must be here, but we need to get together. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And somebody needs to bring them together, and maybe it's actually been resonating with me that maybe that's something that somebody needs to put the initiative together there, bring us together, and because now we are here. But personally, seeing it, obviously, no, I don't see it on the street as such. And I'm still getting excited when I see groups of tourists and families, Black, Americans and Black British here. It really excites me. So there's a need then for the ones that are living here, because those that have chosen to, and they've made it easier now that you can come with a digital visa and stuff like that to be here, for somebody to do something and to oil that machine and bring that together. Because if I'm missing something, I would say it's that now. That would be the one thing now that will give me my ultimate fulfillment of being here. Because, there is a need for it, and I feel that need.
What would you do?
Something that's going to make us want to be together. Exactly how that looks, I don't know. But in the next interview, I'll tell you.
Oh, okay. He's already planning ahead, Melanie. He's already planning ahead. Okay. Smart businessman to do that.
Yeah. But you've got me thinking. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be this is a Black group or whatever, but it's got to be an interest. It's got to be something that I'm going to enjoy doing. It's got to be something that's going to bring us together, some kind of interest.
That's going to impact Black.
I know in the States you celebrate what's this? Kwanzaa? Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa.
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 Yeah,
Is that right? You celebrate that?
Yes.
In
Some people do.
Some people do.
September?
I think more people celebrate Juneteenth than Kwanzaa.
Yes. So it could be starting just having that, putting something like that together and seeing, who would want to come out and do that and bring us together for something, That's my first reaction to your question.
I think Juneteenth might be, this is my guess, and Melanie, correct me if you think otherwise, but I think Juneteenth might actually be more of an attraction for Black travelers than Kwanzaa, only because Juneteenth is in the summertime, so it's June 19th. So it's, just before people go on their summer holiday, like in mass. They go on their summer holidays, but it's usually part of a long weekend. So I could see at least Black folks from the East Coast traveling to Spain, for a long weekend or for a week in order to take part in a Juneteenth celebration here.
And what do you do on Juneteenth?
So Juneteenth, Nigel, is a celebration of a group of formerly enslaved Africans finally getting word. I believe it was 4 years after slavery had ended, that they were free. They actually hadn't known for some significant period of time that they were free. And I believe that the day that they got word was June 19th. And ever since, I mean, they just broke out into obviously awe, utter celebration. And ever since, communities around the United States have celebrated, marked that moment.
I don't even know. I mean, it's just because I don't know, but I'm not saying it doesn't exist. If they celebrate that in the UK.
Well, it's just become a U.S. holiday. It's become an official U.S. holiday, I think, in the last 2 years or so. So I think there's more recognition than internationally of it. So my thought, Derek, you said, well, what do you think? I thought, well, sure, Kwanzaa probably is more recognized internationally in a kind of diasporic way, this kind of African-oriented, but U.S. created celebration of principles of unity and reflection and community building. Juneteenth is, to my mind, an American holiday. But like you say, Derek, if you're wanting to attract people coming from the U.S. on holiday, I think, you would definitely get a festive crowd. But I like that your wheels are turning, Nigel. I think that then means something interesting is going to come out of it. Exciting.
I remember, but I don't know what it was. But I remember seeing something in social media a while back, Barcelona. So there's obviously a consciousness here about being Black and being in Barcelona. But the fact that if there was something interesting, I would have known about it, I would have been there. So it can't have really gotten off the ground, I don't think, because I usually get to know most things that are getting off the ground and happening. I'm a very curious person, But maybe I'll check that out and see whether anything really does exist, because I do like the name, Barcelona.
Although it sounds like Blacks alone.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely have to catch up with you just before and once you start your next endeavor. You know, you're already bringing people. You're helping people come. You want to bring people together. Now you want to create something new to keep them here longer, and enjoying the cultural richness that they bring, as well as the cultural richness of the city that it has right now. So we'll definitely have to catch up with you again. We're running a little short on time, so we definitely don't want to keep you too long. But is there anything else you would like to say to the audience? Just as they think about, especially the Black audience members, as they think about Barcelona and maybe coming for a visit or coming back again?
It's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely a good place to be. It's an exciting place to be, even though it has changed in the years that I've been here. I still feel good here. 27 years later, it feels home. And yes, come. And if you do come, you can reach out. You have a good contact here that will show you the real Barcelona.
So that's okay, folks. You heard it here first. That's the invitation for you, not just to come to Barcelona, but to contact Nigel. So,
nice.
How should people reach out to you then?
I can give you a website, my professional website if you want, or personal website, barcelonarelocation.com. That's, the professional website. You can find me there, or, my personal details, which I can send to you, and you can publish if you wish.
Okay, we shall do that. All right. Well, we're going to have to wrap up here, but we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And really nice speaking to you both, guys. Yeah. Delighted to be here and delighted to return. And come back to Barcelona, both of you.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and so glad we could get you this time.
Okay.
And for those of you in the audience, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, feel free to email us with your questions or comments, or whatever platform you're on. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us as well. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Black Landing Forum. Take care.
Perfect.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye.